We are live, brother.
Folks, what is up, and welcome to Vol Talk. This is an unscripted show on all things volunteer sports. But today, Austin, we're going to be talking about the fact that in 2 days, your Tennessee Volunteers play their last football game of 2025. And just like we started the season against a northern team with blue and not the quite right shade of orange, we are ending this season, Austin, against a northern team whose colors are blue and not the quite right shade of orange, because it ain't big orange, baby. Your Tennessee Volunteers play the Illinois Fighting Illini in the Music City Bowl in 2 days' time. Austin, did I do a decent job of trying to hype up a meaningless bowl game?
Yes, it is very sad that it's the Music City Bowl. I was very jealous of BYU and Georgia Tech last night playing the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I feel like that's as equal to the national championship at this point, Blake. I would love to be in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Looks like a ton of fun. The Music City Bowl, dude, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the first Tennessee bowl games I remember watching, and this, is, of course, was the infamous offensive penalty that gave North Carolina another chance to send it into overtime, which literally changed the rules in college football. Nobody wanted to be in the Music City Bowl. Just got to be honest. We didn't want to be in this one in particular because this is one that we play in a lot. A lot of fans like to travel outside the state to go to the bowl game, for like a destination kind of spot. We did so in Miami for the Orange Bowl. Unfortunately, not going to be able to do that. It's right here in Nashville in our backyard. So quite unfortunate. It is a opponent that we apparently first meeting ever though, Blake. So that should be fun. And we'll see, man. We'll see. It's a bowl game. It's whatever. I guess we'll cover it.
We got to do our due diligence. It is Tennessee football. And so we got to cover Tennessee football for sure. And yeah, so we're going to do our best to, like Austin said, even though it's not exactly where we wanted to be, we're going to cut now. We're going to talk about the bowl game itself. We're going to preview, of course, our Vols versus the Fighting Illini. But then also, Austin, we're going to start with a little bit of conversation on something that probably is of more interest to everyone, which is, hey, who's playing in the bowl, a.k.a. Joey Aguilar, potentially his last game ever as a Vol, or potentially not. We'll see. And then who's not playing in the bowl either because they've entered the portal, which Austin, you and I talked about before the show. There might be a little bit of good news there in terms of the portal so far. And then, of course, who's not playing due to the NFL draft and declaring for the draft. So we're going to get into that, folks. But, jump in the chat and let us know what you think. Okay. We've got our live show going here. If you're watching after the fact, jump in the comments and let us know who you see as the biggest loss so far to the draft. We're going to go over those players, but jump in the comments and let us know, out of those players we've lost, who you think is the biggest loss. And of course, let us know as well what you think the score is going to be for the bowl game, your Vols versus the Fighting Illini. And look, if you're watching Vol Talk, then you must love the Vols, which means you got to smash the like button, okay? We hope you guys had a Merry Christmas, all right? We hope everyone had a great time with their families. But if you want to give us a late Christmas present, just smash that like button. We would really appreciate it. And then, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Austin, let's start with actually, first of all, I want to start with this. So far, brother, it looks like we have resolved our connection issues. So we're once again a little bit late starting the live show today. Typically, we aim for 11:30 a.m. Eastern to start our live shows on Sundays. We're a little late. We're going to test a few last-minute things. But, brother, so far, knock on wood, it looks like those issues are resolved. So we're very thankful for that. We apologize, folks, for kind of the choppiness in my video in particular over the past few episodes. And so we hope you enjoy the new crystal clear, back to the crystal clear content. It's going to be a fun show, Austin, a short show. So let's jump right into the talking about the players who we're going to be missing. And shout out to Lamone. Lamone's in the chat there. Welcome, Lamone. Good to see you, buddy. So, Austin, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we've got some players who have entered the portal or who are planning on entering the portal, and then we've got some players who are declaring for the draft or who have declared for the draft. So take us away, brother. Talk us through who we're going to be missing in this bowl game.
So we'll start with the guys that have declared for the draft so far. Pretty much the names we expected, Blake. We had been kind of debating, are we going to get Colton Hood back? It kind of seemed like that was the only one on the fence that we might get back. Well, he ended up declaring this past week along with Joshua Josephs. Yeah. So those two will not be playing. And then, of course, the ones that probably everyone knew already, Chris Brazzell, Jermod McCoy, and Arion Carter as well. The most surprising out of the bunch is still Arion Carter for me. I didn't really expect him to declare as a junior, but Here we are. So those are the guys we're missing. Blake, one thing I find notable about the draft guys, only one offensive guy, and we just got done having a whole season talking about just how bad our defense is. Well, that's how you get a defensive coordinator fired, by the way, is when you have 5 defensive guys declaring for the draft, but your defense sucked this year. So that's one way. So, yeah, that's interesting to me. I said 5, I meant 4, but still, it's pretty inexcusable what Tim Banks did this year with the talent he was working with.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. It's the most damning evidence when you're losing some top round, potential first round draft picks in general. When you've got several players that are about to get drafted in at least the first couple rounds, and like you said, the product on the field was not reflective of that. So.
Not at all.
Defense was awful. So yeah, and then you see the result. We've got a new defense coordinator in Jim Knowles, so we're excited about that. And Austin, if I'm not speaking of that, I guess this will be his first game, right? I mean,
he's not. He will not be the DC in this game. It will be the interim DC. He's probably
it's going to be
doing portal stuff and things like that. But I'm sure he's on the practice field, but he won't be the defense coordinator in the bowl game, as far as I understand. So, but Blake Lamone's asked an interesting question about a guy leaving potentially, Ricky Gibson. In the chat.
Yes.
That's an interesting one. I haven't heard anything on Gibson. He's interesting because he was hurt pretty much this entire season. He got hurt game 1 and never returned. Which, it was one of those things where we knew he'd be out for a while, but we weren't positive if it was going to be a season-ending injury. He's not playing the bowl game for sure. I would highly doubt he's playing the bowl game. As far as his future is concerned, there seems to be an understanding among some fans that thought Ricky Gibson was going to be like a high draft pick. I'm not under that impression. I don't think Ricky Gibson was ever going to be very high drafted. Maybe if he had a big year this year, Blake, before he got hurt, but especially coming off an injury, he didn't play close to the level Jermod did last year. So he's not like a projected first rounder. So I would hope. Now, I don't know this for sure. I'm not like this isn't. I don't even know if it's a prediction. I would hope that he's going to be back next season. That would be really helpful because, we just lost 2 boundary corners. We could really use a guy outside of Ty Redmond on the other side. So Gibson coming back would be huge. That's a good question though, because that's another guy that's, kind of on the fence kind of deal. May be back, may not. And as far as the portal, he could hit the portal too. Who knows? We'll see. But I mean, I would hope that he's going to be back next year and healthy.
Yeah, surely he won't hit the portal when he knows he would start, and hopefully we, make sure that we're, getting his NIL taken care of and all that good stuff. But yeah, it would definitely be huge. It's a great question from Lamone because, we're gonna, when you've got Jermod McCoy, which unfortunately, most fans kind of saw the writing on the wall when Jermod McCoy didn't return, especially by the Alabama game. I think everyone kind of realized, okay, he's not coming back this season, and
I still
so
push back on
you know,
that because I think if we would have, I think it had to do with how we played too. Like if you win the Oklahoma game,
sure,
or if you, especially if you win the Alabama game, I think he's going to try to come back and make a playoff push. I think
help us.
once
Yeah,
it's very clear you're not a playoff contender, like makes total sense to
there's
declare
no
for the
reason
draft.
to risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, with that being said, when we lose that game, especially if he's out that game and we lose that game, then I think most fans saw the writing on the wall. So,
True.
but with Ricky Gibson, again, the point is that Ricky Gibson was great, last year coming into this year. And I think maybe a lot of those fans had that perception because I think he may have been on some draft boards coming into this season, but then of course he got hurt. To your point, and so that changes the outlook, especially when you're kind of, a potential question mark, depending on how he played this season. But regardless, we know we're going to need to replace Jermon McCoy,
Yep.
and we're going to need to replace especially Colton Hood. And so really hope that Gibson comes back. Hood is definitely a big loss, but I mean, we kind of expected that as much as we didn't want to see it.
We did.
And then same with Joseph's. I was kind of sad to see that happen, Austin. I mean, do you think
Yeah.
that's going to cause a huge hit in the production on the D line?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. As far as next year's concerned, that's a whole nother question. As far as the bowl game, for sure it will. There's no question about that. In the bowl
Right.
game. But yeah, Joseph's this is an interesting I know a lot of our listeners probably don't follow the NFL too closely. I love the NFL. I do follow it pretty closely. And this upcoming NFL draft class, Blake, it's a pretty weak class. So any like fringe guys are probably declaring this year. Like maybe in a stronger draft class, Joseph's or especially Colton Hood may not actually declare. But in this class, I could see both of those guys being, late first round picks. So and it's obviously a no brainer at that point if you're going to be a late first round pick. So, but yeah, I mean it's going to be huge for both those guys are going to be huge losses in the bowl game.
Yeah, and Lamone shouting out in the chat, Jordan Thomas, who's been injured, another guy in secondary who has been injured for a while now, and he had a season-ending injury with his right knee. So, that's another guy where it's like, okay, maybe he comes back, but then the question has to be, is his production going to be there after missing so much time and stuff? And so, regardless, I think the bottom line is Ricky Gibson. It would be huge if we could get him back for sure.
Yeah, and
Any
Jordan Thomas
other
is
thoughts,
interesting.
Austin?
Oh, just real
Go
quick,
ahead. Yeah.
touch on the
No,
Jordan
please.
Thomas thing. Jordan Thomas is interesting because when you miss, and you are right about that, Lamont, he's been out for pretty much 2 years now. I don't know if he's going to play football again. I mean, I'm sure he's working his
Yeah.
way back, but that's been kind of a question mark if he's going to play again and will be for us. Again, another guy would be nice to get back into the secondary because obviously the safety play was not up to par this year, Blake.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't. It was quite lacking. So, and really even just in for the just the secondary in general, the cornerbacks you and I talked about, some people were kind of down on the cornerbacks, but with what we had, I think we did a pretty good job at cornerback. But in general, we need more depth and we need more production out of the secondary. So, any other kind of big things to take away before we shift a little bit to talk about the transfer portal and who's into the portal so far? Any other kind of big takeaways, Austin, for the guys who've declared for the draft?
Since we talked about the defensive guys a little bit, I'll shout out Chris Brazel, a guy we can expect to hear day one of the draft. I expect Blake. I think him and McCoy are probably locks for the first round. It's going to be really cool, dude. We haven't had multiple first round picks in years. And just like last year, Blake, we'll cover the guys going into the draft. We'll have a draft preview show centered around the Vols and the guys entering the draft, and then we'll review it as well. So that will be fun around April when the draft is. But Brazel obviously had a great year. And that's a huge question mark. Who's going to replace his production? And we'll get into that a little bit specifically for the bowl game. But it's going to have to be one of the young guys, one of the guys that, one of the true freshmen that didn't play a lot this year, and the guys coming in next year like Tristan Keys. So it'll be interesting to see how that receiving core kind of shapes out with likely Staley and Matthews coming back for next year. But we probably need that third guy to step up as well.
Yeah, definitely going to be huge piece to a huge hole to fill in the receiving core. But I think it's possible. I think Braylon Staley is going to continue to rise as a star. And so I'm excited to see that. And then if Mike Matthews, man, can just quit dropping passes, he's going to be a star as well. So we got Killer Dude in the chat. Welcome, Killer Dude. We got Rachel and my wife, Rachel. Welcome, Rachel, and Wesley in the chat. But Killer Dude here in the chat saying Jordan Thomas took a medical red shirt this year. He should be good to go in 2026. Yes. Hopefully he will be able to play football again, assuming everything is good to go with his knee from that, season ending. Well, like Lamone said, and like Austin said, it's been over a season. And so that's what worries us about Jordan Thomas is, it's multiple years. So that's not a good sign, but we hope for the best for him and that he'll be back. So, because yes, like Lamone said in the chat, it'd be great to see what he can do in the secondary. But Austin, let's now shift still to talking about who's going to be missing the ball. So one piece of it is the draft, and that is something that, as much as we don't want to see those players leave, it's a sign of a healthy team, right? When we've got players heading to the draft, it means that we've got good talent. It means that we've developed that talent, and it means that we've got good visibility in the program. So that is good, even though it's bad. The bad usually mostly is the transfer portal, right? And who we're going to be losing to the transfer portal. However, Austin, you mentioned right before we kind of got on the show that so far, knock on wood, we haven't lost too many big names to the transfer portal. A couple depth pieces, and some folks, I think an O lineman recently, depth piece. The biggest name though, Austin, Peyton Lewis, we lost. Talk us through all these guys that we've lost to the transfer portal so far, and kind of your take on the impact there.
Yeah, it has been light so far. If I'm not mistaken, the portal is not officially open. Like you can't. When I say that, I mean teams can't go sign guys just yet, even though talks are already taking place. And luckily we haven't had any of those like Twitter, like I know you're off Twitter right now, but we haven't had any of those Twitter posts of teams re-signing players in college. USC had multiple of these posts re-signing players, like they're signing contract, like they're taking pictures, signing contracts like they do in the NFL.
I hate it.
And they got absolutely roasted alive for it. So yeah, let's hope we don't post any stupid stuff like that. I will say though, it is, again, knock on wood, cross your fingers, whatever you want to do. It seemed like we're not going to take too much of a hit as far as guys leaving the portal. Of course, I'll add as far as big guys names are concerned, obviously Boo Carter, that happened during the season that was going to happen. But that's really, I think we can all agree, addition by subtraction kind of deal with Boo in his situation. Peyton Lewis, you mentioned Peyton Lewis. I will say that is, I felt like Peyton Lewis still had a role on this team. He was likely going to be RB number 2 next year. I think Peyton Lewis likely wanted the main role, and it obviously with Deshaun Bishop being an underclassman and not a guy who's likely to be drafted as an underclassman. He's obviously going to be RB number 1 again next year. So Peyton Lewis wanted an opportunity to probably go be a starter. And we talked about this a little bit on the season review. He was a bit of a disappointment this year, Blake. I don't know. It's almost like they just couldn't figure out what he was. Because he was a speed back in college, right? He was, speed back in high school, and then he bulked up quite a bit. And, that's part of, Tennessee making that decision. Like, hey, get big, add a lot of weight. And then he became kind of a bruiser, and he was good at that. Like he had his moments, like the Syracuse play that you love, Blake. Like he had his moments.
Yeah.
Um, but it just, I mean, he was RB number 3 this year, so it's not like a detrimental loss. And then of course we lost the other notable name I'll say is Merklinger. Of course, we already talked about that a little bit
Yeah.
on a previous show, but he was probably going to be the third or fourth string quarterback next year with McIntyre. Like Merklinger is one of those things where it's like you mentioned how the portal's bad. Well, a lot of the portal, Blake, is teams telling guys like, hey, like read the writing on the wall kind of thing. Like you can
Yeah.
stay on the
True.
roster if you want. Sometimes teams straight up tell them, hey, you're gonna get cut, so you should hit the portal. I don't think that was the case with Merklinger. It was probably like you're probably never going to get a chance to play here. Like it's either going to be McIntyre next year, it's going to be Aguilar year 2, or it's going to be Faison, or even a guy in the portal. It's not going to be you. So like Merklinger wants a chance to go
Yeah.
play somewhere. So again, I mean, it's been like a pretty light impact so far. Really hope that stays the case, Blake, because I've said a lot during the season and in the so far in the off season that we have a really good young core of players, and if we can keep that for 2026, I think we could do damage next season.
For sure. Yeah. And to your point about doing damage next season, Killer Dude makes a great point in the chat here about getting the right guys in the portal, in terms of upgrading. And just like your point about, yeah. And, when I say the portal is bad, meaning that, we're potentially losing talent or, and not because, or, honestly, Austin, even if it's not talent that we're going to be missing, it maybe is it's not like the draft where it's like, hey, you did a good job, you developed this player, or you got the right talent, or you got good talent. The portal is like, okay, we didn't get the greatest talent, or they didn't pan out, or what, or we're just losing them because they want to, go somewhere else or whatever. So, but again, like you said, it can be addition by subtraction. It can be opening up to Killer Dude's point in the chat here, opening up a spot for a person who fits better or
Yeah.
who is going to be better. So, and he asks, what kind of headroom do we think that we have roster wise to add guys from the portal? Austin, I think obviously we might be looking at the portal for a QB, especially
Yeah.
depending on how the Joey situation, which that gets to Wesley's point, which Wesley, I'm glad you brought that up because that's going to be our segue to previewing the Music City Bowl, is talking about Aguilar and if it's his last game. But so Austin, what kind of headroom do we have? So we've got some space in the RB room now.
Yes.
We might need to still be hitting the portal for some guys on defense. Talk us through that.
We do have a big roster and a young roster, but there is still room. I mean, as far as like a prediction, like we'll be covering this as it happens, and probably maybe preview the portal at some point, and guys will potentially be targeting. But QB for sure, like you mentioned, Blake. Running back for sure, with Peyton Lewis being gone. Like we need a solid RB2. Dwayne Morris could take over that role. He was, I mean, early in the year, I mean, they were giving him touches in the Syracuse game. It looked like they're going to try to do a 4-man rotation or whatever the heck they were trying to do in that game. But Morris got some pretty legitimate playing time this year as a freshman. So I expect to see a lot of him next year. But I still expect to get a running back in the portal to add on to that room. And then we're probably going to need, I would guess we're targeting a guard with Wendell Moe graduating. Like that's a pretty good bet, unless they feel like they have someone developed on the roster that they can plug in. I like plugging linemen in. I mean, we did it with Mo this past offseason, Blake. Like you have a hole on the offensive line, you want someone experienced, plug someone out of the portal and put him in. I'd be good with that. And then defensively, you got a lot of room. I mean, we need more D line depth. That's going to be a big target in the portal, I think, Blake. And then the linebacker room has been thin for a couple years. Now it's with the freshmen that have played, like Spillman and Perlot and everybody, like it looks like it's getting more depth. But then you just lost Carter, which was a little bit unexpected. You have T-Lander there, but it's like I would say that room is still pretty pretty thin. And then obviously safeties. I mean, we can use a couple of starters at safety. So defense is going to be a lot heavier than offense. Last offseason, Blake, I'll just say this real quick. Last offseason, we targeted a lot of receivers in the portal and we swung and missed a lot. I mean, there was a lot of guys that we tried to get and we just missed on. I wouldn't expect us to target a single receiver in the portal this year. I think the receiver room is way too full. Like we got a lot of talented freshmen coming in. We got a lot of talented freshmen on the roster. I expect the receiver room to stay the same. So, yeah, there's definitely a little bit more room in some position groups than others.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, shout out to if you're just joining, folks. We appreciate you joining. Right now, we are discussing the offseason moves on the roster heading into the bowl game. Who's going to be missing the bowl game either because of declaring for the NFL draft or the transfer portal, going to the transfer portal. Killer Dude, you ask how many spots specifically on our roster are available for portal additions. Well, it's interesting that as far as I understand, that's not an exact answer because of NIL and like, if you mean scholarship spots, according to my research, we probably have around 5 vacancies for scholarship spots. And there's multiple factors there as well with the limit on scholarships and things like that. But that doesn't necessarily determine, who we're going to be trying to get in the portal and, whether they have a quote unquote scholarship or if they will, just be paid with NIL or whatever the case may be. And to Austin's point, and you make a great point in the chat there, Killer Dude, that, we need some D line for sure. What were you going to say, Austin?
I was going to say with the roster limits, it's interesting, Blake, because there's a lot of litigation going on right now to basically eliminate roster limits. Now it went down, and now coaches are upset that it went down because of this ongoing litigation. But the players that are part of this NIL lawsuit against college football or against NCAA are basically trying to eliminate roster limits altogether. So that's a question that can literally change daily, and we probably won't know exactly until honestly the summer. So right before the season started, because that's kind of when all that stuff started happening last year, Blake. But yeah, so we'll see how many guys we end up targeting in the portal. I will say, Blake, one thing I can definitively say about this coaching staff and Heupel in particular, man, our portal additions, they've been very intentional in the portal and they have hit like way more than they have missed. I mean, it's been really, really good. So far they've managed the portal pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a guy in Colton Hood who's potentially going to be a first-round draft pick after one season with us, and
McCoy,
that's right.
Transfer.
McCoy was actually a portal addition for sure. Yes. Yeah, so so you're definitely right about that. I hope that this coaching staff can, especially with Jim Knowles coming in, can continue to knock it out of the park in the transfer portal. We will see about that for sure. Shout out to Matt in the chat. Welcome, Matt. He says, "What's up, Blake, Austin, and Fanatics? Excited about the bowl game. Going to be freezing. So, Matt, are you going to the bowl game? Let us know in the chat, folks, if you are going to. It's only a couple hours. Well, for Austin and usually myself, being in East Tennessee, it's only a couple hour drive over to Nashville.
Yeah,
I know we've got 2-3 hour drive. I know we've also got some Middle Tennessee folks and even some folks like Lynn, some friends of the program who, are closer to Middle Tennessee down in northern Alabama or whatever the case may be. So let us know if you're going to the bowl game over there in Nashville in the chat. We got Ben Sherman, Austin. Let me know what you think about this point. Ben makes in the chat. He says we need all the defense or we need most of the portal additions to be on defense. So, he thinks that we should go for a quote unquote lower dollar QB addition. I think that really depends on the Joey situation.
It does. Right? It really does. Like, yeah. And that's kind of the pin we're waiting to drop. Like we won't know until I think after Jan 1. I think that's the big date that people have set aside, maybe Jan 2, but we'll know within like a week or so or less than a week. So, and yeah, I think that'll depend. Like you said, that'll kind of make the Joey, who knows? Maybe a team tries to poach Joey and we have to raise the money to keep him. But it's interesting because I mean, you could definitely say Aguilar was a lower dollar QB last year, Blake. What quarterbacks are getting now, it's like, I think I mean, I won't say it's the base rate, but what I see kind of the starting rate for a lot of these guys, it's about 3 to 5 million for quarterbacks this day and age. So Aguilar was definitely a bargain last year. I think we got him under two. So yeah, it'll be kind of curious. I think, to Blake's point, it'll really just depend on the quarter, like if Joey's staying or not. If Joey doesn't stay, then Heupel may feel like, okay, we have to go get a starter. But with the Merklinger situation, with McIntyre being QB2, with potentially, we'll talk about this a little bit in the bowl game preview, Blake, but potentially getting some reps, hopefully in the bowl game, they might just believe in McIntyre. We really just don't know what the current coaching staff thinks. I really doubt they give Faison a chance year one to start, but we'll see. But yeah, we got a lot of questions as far as the quarterback position in coming weeks, Blake.
Yes, and this gets into Wesley's question in the chat earlier about this being Joey's last game. We're going to be talking about that when we transition to the preview for the Music City Bowl. So we'll be getting to that in just a moment. Real quick, I want to touch on another question in the chat here. And folks, again, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. Continue jumping in the chat. Let us know what you think and let us know what your questions are. We love this discussion with everyone. So again, welcome, and please hit that like button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. But Matt is talking about Lance Hurd, Austin. Lance Hurd has been
big question.
Part of Vol Talk lore. We used to take shots at Lance Hurd. Because of his play, he vastly improved this year. Shout out to him. Would love to see him stay.
Yes.
But what's your take so far on Lance Hurd?
That's a fantastic question. It actually slipped my mind. I'm actually really glad they brought that up because that's another on the fence guy, I would say, Blake. No news is good news if you're a Vol fan, because that means he hasn't declared yet. I haven't seen him opt out of the bowl game either. If he doesn't opt out of the bowl game, it kind of feels like he's probably not declaring for the draft, even though they have a couple more months to declare, if I'm not mistaken. But I would absolutely love to see Lance Hurd come back another year. Our offensive line should be, I've gotten predictions like this wrong in the past, but they should be an absolute strength next season, especially if Lance Hurd is back. So, that's another guy we're waiting on news for. I don't have any news at the moment, but would love to see him be a Vol in 2026.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. No news so far is good news anyway. And so would love for that to continue to be the case and that we see him again next year. Because regardless of who's at quarterback, you need a good offensive line to keep him out of the dirt. And Lance Hurd is definitely going to be an integral part of that next year if he'll stick around. So, but man, Austin, so again, so far, theme with the transfer portal seems to be going okay so far. Peyton Lewis is probably the biggest loss so far. And so far, again, knock on wood, we haven't lost too many big guys to the portal. We hope to add some folks via the portal, again, as everyone has talked about in chat, especially on defense. So we'll keep a pulse on that, folks. Like Austin said, we're going to be covering throughout the offseason of football. We'll always cover any big transfer news, portal news, or just big offseason news in general, as we also cover Tennessee basketball and eventually Tennessee baseball once baseball season rolls around again. So, but of course, football, everyone loves football. So we'll continue to keep a pulse on that. But Austin, we have been dancing around the subject of Joey Aguilar and the big headline going into the Music City Bowl. So let's get into the Music City Bowl preview. Tennessee Vols versus Illinois Fighting Illini. We'll also talk about some folks for the Illini who have opted out or who are missing because of the draft or what have you. But the big question on everyone's mind is this Joey Aguilar's last game as a Tennessee Volunteer? And man, look, let me just start by saying this. The season didn't go the way we wanted it to. It could have been an even crazier fairy tale kind of story of Joey Aguilar. The kid left for dead. He gets essentially booted out of UCLA because of Nico bolting from Tennessee. And then we take him in a guy who was potentially going to quit football to become a fireman and instead is lighting up defenses, including the Georgia defense, Austin, in front of 100,000 fans, screaming fans. Still a fantastic story, brother. Still a fantastic story. Love what Joey Aguilar did. He beat the Gators in the swamp for the first time in over 20 years, or in 20 years, I should say. And so, no, it is over 20 years, right? Because it was 2003. So, man, a lot of awesome stuff from Aguilar. I would love for him to be a Vol again next year.
I agree, man. I've been I'll be honest, I've been kind of going back and forth with it. But I think Aguilar, man, I just think it's a perfect transition to whoever the next guy is going to be. Whether it's McIntyre, I know a lot of guys want it to be Faison. I completely understand why. I mean, Faison is one of the highest quarterback recruits we've ever had here, right up there with Nico. He might have been higher rated than Nico. I'm not really too sure on that. But yeah, I mean, so I would love Aguilar to be back. I think it'd be a perfect transition. I think Aguilar was good enough to get into the playoffs this year, Blake. I really do. I think he was good enough this season to get to the playoffs. I'll be honest, as far as the court stuff's concerned, I don't have a pulse on it. I know a lot of people like have a feeling on it. I would be curious why you all feel that way. If you do feel one way or the other, why? Because these things to me are kind of random. Like college football and the people that have been deciding this, which is like lower level judges at this point, Blake, have been the ones making these decisions. I mean, it can really go either way. And I feel like if I had to guess, it's probably going to be, yeah, he's going to be given an extra year of eligibility because the crap we're seeing all around college athletics, Blake, it's insane. We just had a kid
Yeah.
who was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, Blake. I don't know if you heard about this. He was drafted like 31st overall to the Charlotte Hornets, is now eligible to play college basketball at Baylor University this season. This guy has highlights of guarding Victor Wembanyama in NBA Summer League, but he is now going to be back in college playing basketball for the Baylor Bears this year, Blake. It's unheard of. It's absolutely asinine. The kind of decisions and eligibility that's being granted at the moment. It's incredibly infuriating, to be honest, as a college football fan. I'll be honest, if I had to make the decision, right, and I didn't have my Vol hat on, Blake, if I didn't have my, orange and white hat on, I would say no to Joey's eligibility. I actually think JUCO should be part of your eligibility, man. It's basically a development in college football at a lower level until you get good enough to go play on a higher level, and I think that should count. That might upset some Vols fans. Obviously, selfishly, I want him back. I do want him back. But Blake, if he comes back, he's under right now the same suit that Diego Pavia is under. So
Pavia.
guess what?
Yeah.
We get to listen to his loud mouth for a whole nother college football season as well. Because I do not see a scenario where Pavia is not granted eligibility and Aguilar is. I just don't see that. I think at this point, I mean, basically college football is endless. Like you can play forever. Apparently,
Yeah.
I mean, you can retire as an NBA player and come back and play college ball. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. What's that National Lampoon movie? I think it's got Val Kilmer in it, and it's like, the dude's like a 7th year, 8th year super senior, in college,
Yeah,
and he's just
exactly.
like, living his life, literally just going to college every year, just because, having a blast in college, never having to become an adult. Look, like you said, selfishly, we'd love to have Aguilar back. I want Aguilar back, but thinking bigger picture, uh, I don't think it's good for the sport to
It's not.
continue to just give endless eligibility, endless
Yeah.
eligibility. We've got to have some sort of
Some
to
rules.
guardrails, some sort of rules. Look, I'm as much as any red-blooded American. Okay, I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like rules. Yeah, look, I get it, but man, I love college football, and you got to have some sort of structure. if you're going to have an enjoyable sport, especially to protect what college football is supposed to be, which is
Mhm.
student athletes. It's not professional athletes.
Well,
It's not
that's
supposed to be
gone.
professional athletes. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's mostly gone, right? But
Mhm.
please, we got to figure out a way to protect the sanctity of the tradition of college football.
Yeah.
So if there was a world where I could wave my magic wand and get Aguilar to stay, while also kicking Pavia out,
Yeah,
and
that'd be great.
and and,
That'd be
and
fantastic.
yeah, not having endless eligibility, that would be fantastic. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. But Austin, that's again, that's separate from it actually going to happen. Who
Mhm.
knows? I guess we're going to find out. So, and I don't, to your point earlier, I don't think we're going to know before the bowl game one way or another.
No, no, we won't know before the bowl game. Again, it's somebody reported today. It's slipping my mind, but it's within the coming week or two that we should know and get the ball rolling on this. The problem is, I also heard that it's possible that if we know after a certain date, that likely Aguilar is going to hit the portal just out of necessity, Blake, because if it's one of those situations where Tennessee needs to plan right in this upcoming transfer portal window, they need to plan for next year, so they'll probably, if they haven't got a decision on Aguilar yet, they're probably going after a quarterback, and in that case Aguilar's probably going to have to transfer to go be a starter somewhere else, maybe during the springtime. Again, with college football, I know there's been things reported like there's only one portal window now. I hope that plays out and is the case. um Again, we just don't know, man. It's like Wesley just said something. It's the Wild West. I mean, it's genuinely the Wild West. There are no rules. Like there's no leadership in the sport. So things that we know today and we think are the way today can literally change tomorrow. And a lot of these things happen during the football offseason, Blake. So we'll see how it plays out.
We're definitely going to keep a pulse on it and cover it as it comes out. But yeah, it is kind of crazy right now. I hope they change the portal in particular. We've talked so much on this show about having both unlimited NIL and just unlimited transferring is just it was just
It's
nuts. And
chaos,
two
man.
portals a year, and you got guys getting paychecks, and then before they even freaking play it down, and then they're transferring again. You got guys transferring from one school to another, and then back to the first school. It's nuts. So, but we will see. We got both Ben and Matt in the chat saying that they're kind of big believers in GMAC Austin. A lot of people clamoring for wanting to see GMAC, and I understand why. He's highly touted. It's just he's got to put on some muscle this offseason, man. He's got to put on some meat of some sort because he's just looking too frail to be an SC
Yeah.
quarterback, at least right now.
And I agree. I agree with that, but like I said on the review show, those things change so quick. I mean, how like especially at his age, like the growth will happen very quickly,
Sure.
and I think he's already gotten bigger. What I'm more worried about is what he looks like in practice. Like, does he actually look like he can
Yes.
command an offense at the moment? And we won't. I don't think they'll know that until the spring, Blake. When I mean, shoot, we might have another quarterback competition on our hands if Aguilar's not the guy. So,
Yeah.
and doesn't come back. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, listen, and I'm kind of with you. I kind of get why it's kind of odd to me how some of our fan base has just like wants to move straight on to Faison. I get why, because he's like incredibly talented, and I'm very excited for Faison, by the way. However, I mean, I would be interested about GMAC. I mean, at some point, Blake, he was a 5-star quarterback. I mean, people forget this all the time. He was rated a 5-star quarterback. The only reason he was dropped to a 4-star, according to all the big recruiting sites, is he missed the Elite 11 game because of injury. And you could say, oh, maybe he was soft and didn't want to compete in the Elite 11. He was worried about, looking bad. Maybe, or, maybe he was hurt and couldn't perform. And that's the only reason he went from that shiny 5-star down to a 4-star. So, but we'll just never know, man. You just never know until these dudes get on the field. We learned that the hard way with Nico
Yeah.
Blake.
Yes, yes, we did. Yes, we did. Matt makes a point about Nico being frail as well, but he survived. Yeah, he
He's
survived
he survived, just not
in a
playing
manner
good.
of speaking. Yeah,
Just
exactly.
not
He
playing
survived
well.
in a manner of speaking. So,
Yeah.
and then Ben talking about GMAC, if he can put on about 15 to 25 pounds, he'd be good to go. And so, yeah, we'll see his progression. But look, right now, Austin, we got Joey Aguilar. He got at least one more game as a
Yeah.
Tennessee Vol
Yeah.
heading into the Music City Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee, against Illinois fighting Illini. So let's talk about the game. Would love to see one more big, huge game from Joey. I'd love for, my personal opinion, I'd love for Heupel to just throw out all the stops and just
Yeah.
let Joey go buck wild
I
and
kinda
just have an
agree.
awesome, fantastic game. Just throw 500 yards and five tutties. Would love to see it. I don't know if that'll happen, but talk us through, Austin. What are your highlights for heading into this bowl game?
I do hope they have fun with it, man, because it's a bowl game, man. It's not listen, it's not serious. It's just not. We don't really care. I won't be devastated if Tennessee loses this game. Like I just won't. We want to compete for more. We do. And Heupel, funny enough,
Yeah,
like in a press conference this week, said that he's like, this season has not been the standard here, and that's just the bottom line. We want to compete for and play for championships, which is what we want to hear because that's what we've been yearning for, and it's what Heupel has achieved in 2 out of his 5 seasons here, Blake. So, um, yeah, I kind of agree though. Especially, it's going to be kind of interesting. I wouldn't look into this too much, but if Hype just like really does let Joey just go insane, like I'm gonna think in the back of my head, oh, Hype kind of knows that this might be Joey's last ride here. But if GMAT comes in the second half, in my eyes, that's like, like, does that mean Joey's coming back? Because, like, I
mm,
feel like, especially if the game's close and they put GMAC in at some point, Blake, in my eyes, that's telling me it's like, okay, I mean, obviously you're going to let Aguilar play if he knows this is his last college football game, maybe the last time playing football in his entire life. Like, of course you're going to let him play that out. So I might read into that a little bit to see how they handle the QB position. But either way, Blake, I do hope Joey has a fantastic game because as you laid out earlier, dude, he's been fantastic this year, dude. I mean, this year could have been an absolute disaster. I think it probably would have been with Nico under center. He kind of saved the year, even though it didn't go the way we wanted it to. So I definitely appreciate Aguilar and hope he puts up 6 touchdowns, 500 yards, whatever.
love it. Would love to see it, man, for sure. Ben agrees with us in the chat. Says hope Joey does have a classic game. Go Big Orange, absolutely. Matt makes an interesting point in the chat here, Austin. I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree with him on this one, Matt. He's saying that for the sake of the SC in Tennessee, we got to get the dub. Um, so I lean more towards the Tennessee part of that argument, Matt, because look, SEC. I don't give a darn about the SEC. All right, man. Let me get all the dubs for the Big Orange, baby. I don't care how the rest of the SEC does. I hope the SEC does not win in the playoffs. I hope they all lose. I
Yeah.
do not want to see any of them get any more national championships.
Well,
So,
yeah. Let me
of course,
say.
I
Let me
don't want
say.
Ohio State to win it either. But
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of teams we don't want to win it. I am a Hoosier fan this upcoming week. I hope the Hoosiers beat the brakes off Alabama. That's one thing I will say.
absolutely,
Man, I just don't think people look at bowl season anymore, man. I think it's like the Pop Tart Bowl and then the college football playoff. That's the only thing any fans have any interest in whatsoever. You see it with the players, man. I used to get mad when players opt out of bowl games, man, because that's just the old school way of thinking. Now I would think a player's insane if he doesn't opt out of the Music City Bowl. I just would. Now, if you opt out of the college football playoff, well, then me and Blake are going to make a whole video on you and go in on you because that's insane. We play this sport to win championships. That's the only reason we play sports. Like, isn't that why we play? So if you opt out of the college football playoff, that's a whole nother conversation. But bowl games, man, just nobody cares. Nobody really cares. But I do want Tennessee to win. Obviously, we're rooting for Tennessee. We're always rooting for Tennessee, to win the bowl game no matter what. It's just it's just tough to
Right.
care about these games anymore. Now, like when we're fighting for bowl eligibility for Derek Dooley, well, shoot, that changes things. Like now you want to win that bowl game no matter what, because you didn't even know you were gonna make a bowl game. But yeah, man, it's just lost its luster, man, over the years, especially with the 12-team playoff and potentially expanding even more past that.
Yeah. But again, I do agree with Matt that look, I want, Tennessee, and like you just said, Austin, I want Tennessee to win because I want to always see the big orange and the W column, baby. Especially because this is, be remiss if I didn't mention, this is our first ever game against Illinois. I would love to welcome them to Tennessee in the appropriate way by beating the brakes off of them, no doubt. And so definitely want to see a dub. We've got some. Speaking of Illinois, Austin, looks like it's good timing. Looks like we got some Big Ten fans coming into the chat here. We got Perry coming in saying "Go Big Ten." So yeah, we'll see about Illinois versus Tennessee. I like our chances. We'll get into the game a little bit here in a second, Austin. But yeah, in terms of look, definitely for Alabama, I don't want to see Alabama winning the national championship. So I hope they get the crap beat out of them for sure. And really, I don't want to see any other SC teams win a national championship. If it was my ideal world, Austin, if Tennessee's not in the playoffs, I wish James Madison could have won it all. But such is life. Such is life. So, but let's talk about Austin. Let's talk about the game again. First meeting between Tennessee and Illinois ever in football. So that's going to be an interesting headline, kind of coming into the game. Illinois, Austin, we were looking at their schedule. They kind of had some interesting wins and losses. They beat a USC team that ended up, a USC team that is decent, but also lost to a terrible team in Wisconsin. Talk us through kind of what you see for Illinois.
Yeah, I mean they've been a solid team in a solid conference with some good schools. Uh, I will say their coach Brett Bulimia, and I just butchered his last name, but Bulimia, I believe it is. He's been really
Yeah.
good in turning them around. I'll say, and they were feisty this year, dude. Interesting. One of the big storylines for me in the game is Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, a guy that we targeted after the Nico debacle went down. He had a pretty good year. And so, yeah, I mean, Illinois has been pretty good. I will also mention, we kind of hinted at this earlier, like their opt outs for the game. They are, as every team in these bowl games, have a few of their key players missing. JC Davis, their all Big Ten left tackle, is out, and Gabe Akis, their edge rusher. And yes, Blake looked it up beforehand. Apparently, you don't pronounce the J. And so both those guys are declining for the draft. So yeah, I mean they have talent. A couple of guys declaring for the draft. But yeah, dude. I mean, like kind of like our situation. I'm sure, some. I mean, Illinois fans might feel a little differently because they don't. They haven't like really. I don't think their standards are what Tennessee standards are. Really, I just don't. So they might feel a little bit differently about the bowl game. And I think Big Ten fans kind of felt like SEC fans did 15 years ago, Blake, or 10 years ago. They had a chip on their shoulder, like they want to be the best conference. Like we want to prove we have the best guys. But SEC fans have like any college. Oh, are we no longer live? Are we still live here? Okay, we're back. Sorry, my computer's glitching out on me here. We're still live, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, SEC fans know this is the best conference. NFL fans know it's the best conference because of the NFL draft. Majority of the players every year from the NFL draft come from the SEC. Now, the Big Ten is the second most. They have the second best conference. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things though, Blake, that it probably means more to them. So they could potentially be playing harder. Even though just like every team in college football, dude, they are going to be missing some of their best players because it's just these bowl games aren't what they used to be. Like dudes that have aspirations of playing in the NFL have no reason to play in the Music City Bowl. They just don't. So Illinois is also missing a few guys.
Yeah, Illinois will be missing some folks, but I think you make a good point, Austin. That they're going to have at least the we want to beat the SEC chip on their shoulder. And I think that's what we see on a lot of these bowl games. Matt talking about some of the bowl game results so far. LSU allowed Houston to come back on them, and they lost to Houston. Houston's not a bad team necessarily, but obviously, we would expect the SEC to win a game like that. And then Missouri losing to Virginia. Virginia is also not a bad team, although Missouri should have been a better team, no doubt. So those are surprising. But again, those teams, they view, beating the SEC as their Super Bowl, so to speak, right? Whether it's a bowl or not. And so they're going to bring their A game. Illinois, I think, in my estimation, is going to bring their A game, no doubt. But hopefully, again, like we talked about, hopefully Heupel pulls out all the stops, opens up the playbook, lets Joey sling it. Hopefully, it's a high scoring affair for our offense. Hopefully, the defense is rejuvenated. We will have, speaking of name pronunciations, Austin, talking about Akis for Illinois, we've got our interim defensive coordinator, William Inge, going to be coaching the defense, and so we'll see a game from him. Hopefully. We'll see how they play under Inge before Knowles gets here.
Yeah, and hopefully he's better at coaching defense than he is the linebackers this year. We'll see on that. That's TBD. But yeah, I kind of buy that too. I do think some of those Big Ten players do want to prove something because, again, and I think Ben in the chat some out Virginia manhandled Missouri. I did watch some of the bowl game. I was watching a little bit of that game. But I just didn't even bother to look up the final score. It's just the best players don't play in these games. Like a couple years ago, and maybe the SEC fans will get on to me about this. Missouri beat Ohio State in a bowl game. Now I do think Ohio State is a little bit different because they have so much talent throughout the roster, Blake, that I think you can still kind of give a little bit of credit for that. And that was a New Year's Six bowl. That was before the 12-team playoff. But it's just hard. I think if Missouri and Ohio State played during that regular season, if that game would have went the same, probably not, because it's just a lot of the players don't like, if you're projected to go to the NFL draft at any point, you don't play. You don't play. And that was a New Year's Six bowl and guys still opted out. That happened in the Orange Bowl, Blake, a couple of years ago. We saw several of our guys opt out. Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, all didn't play in the game. Now we still beat the brakes off Clemson. And you could say, well, both teams are dealing with the same thing, so it kind of evens the play field. And, maybe. I kind of buy that a little bit, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's just, it's hard to take a whole lot away from it. We kind of made the mistake with Nico. Like, Nico plays so good against Iowa in the bowl game a couple years ago, Blake, especially as a runner. Remember, he had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game, and we're coming away. It's like, man, he's going to run up and down the field. Like, he's going to be a great runner. And then his redshirt freshman year, he just didn't really use his legs a whole bunch because he was so panicky in the pocket. They didn't use him a lot in the design run game either. So, it's just hard to take away a lot from this stuff, man. It's just like one of those things that's like it's a one-off thing, and hopefully we win, but I won't lose any sleep if we don't, kind of thing.
It's definitely not like losing to Oklahoma and Alabama and getting eliminated, from the playoff and things like that. It's definitely not going to be that devastating. But brother, I don't like losing, so I was still going to be ticked if we lose, and I definitely still want to win. Again, I want to see big orange dubs all around. And Ben talked about in the chat, Illinois is going to be tough, but we need to play wide open. And yeah, Illinois is going to be interesting because, again, they've got some decent wins on their record, but they've got some weird losses too, including a bad loss to a Wisconsin team that's not that great. And a pretty bad loss to Wisconsin, by the way, by 17. They lost pretty big to Washington.
That was bad.
So on and so forth. So, yeah. So Austin, let's I guess dive on it. What's kind of if you had to put a prediction on it, brother? Give me your final thoughts on the game itself, how you think it's going to go, and then what's your score prediction, brother?
Yeah, we can get into score predictions. I have that overlaid already. So, but yeah, just to put a bow on it, we're 2.5-point favorites at Vegas. I don't know if we're getting any bump because we're gonna be playing in Nashville. I can't imagine the game's going to be anywhere close to sold out. As someone, I'm sorry, I forgot the chatter, but somebody mentioned it's going to be really cold. Bowl games are supposed to be destination places, man. They're supposed to be like at the beach, or,
Yeah.
in LA, or whatever. Like, no one's coming to a cold bowl game, so I don't expect us to have some kind of like home field advantage or anything. I do think we're the better team, even with the opt outs. What I'm going to be looking for, though, Blake, this is how I'll put a bow on it. Is it's kind of like the games against like Chattanooga and things like that. Not that Illinois is that level of opponent, but I am curious. We get to have a sneak peek of our 2026 core roster and our core guys. Now, a lot of those guys got a lot of playing time this year, but in particularly, what I'm going to be looking at, Radarius Jackson and Travis Smith at wide receiver. I think Radarius is, if I had to put a bet on one or the other, I think Radarius is the one that I would favor to kind of plug and play. And they will both be playing a lot in this bowl game, I have to imagine. If Travis Smith's not hurt, he was hurt at some point, but I think Radarius is back and he should be playing. So that's something I'm going to be looking out for. And then some of the young defenders, obviously
Yeah.
Aaron Carter's not going to be playing. So we're going to see a lot of the young linebackers that there's a lot of people that are very excited about. And then who's going to emerge amongst the young edge rushers is what I'm curious about. Obviously Ross is going to get a bigger role, which I'm very intrigued by because he has showed a lot of flashes. And then other guys that haven't got a chance to play yet, Blake, young guys that have not got a chance to play yet, that have been pretty highly touted recruits, now get an opportunity to play in this bowl game. So who kind of emerges of guys that are going to replace some of those key defenders that we've had the last few years?
Yep, that's a great point. I want to see kind of potentially an early look into, like you're talking about, those young guys for 2026 and what they're going to be bringing to the table. Because as Lynn just said in the chat, we got to keep the pedal to the metal in 2026. Look, everyone's looking forward to the phase-on era, like you were talking about earlier, but I want to win now, baby. I want to make the playoffs next season in 2026. I think we'll have the pieces
Agreed.
to do it. And I think this bowl game will be kind of an early look into what these young guys are going to be able to do. And so I hope we see some great play out of them in Nashville, at least for the pride of it, man. The pride of it. You want to win football games. That's why we play.
Correct.
You play to win the game, as a great man once said. So, without further ado, brother, we got some folks dropping their score predictions in the chat. Folks, go ahead and drop your score predictions in the chat. What do you think? Tennessee versus Illinois in the Music City Bowl. Austin, score predictions, brother. What do you think? What is your official score prediction?
Give me Tennessee 31. Actually, you know what? 41. Tennessee 41, Illinois 38. It's going to be a shootout. I don't expect our bad defense to get better without its three best defenders on it. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So they're probably going to get worse. But it is going to be a shootout. I do think we got the offense to keep up despite Chris Brazzell being out. I mean, that's our only offensive loss, and this offense was top 5 in the country. So, yeah, I expect the offense to be on fire like they have most of the year.
I'm glad you changed it because I was also going to predict over 40 points for our offense. I think our offense returns to form. I think they have fun with it. I think that they're going to have a good time. They're going to put up some points despite, obviously, it's not a super meaningful game, but I do think they're going to have fun with it on defense. I think you're probably right, too. I'm sorry, they're going to have fun with it on offense. And I think you're probably right that it might be a bit of a shootout because I don't know if the defense is going to put up a huge effort. I will say that this, though, brother, you said 41. That implies that we are going to be making maybe about 2 field goals. And
that's a good point.
Let me just tell you this.
Actually,
let me
Blake,
just tell you this. I think
it's a missed extra
point. That's
missed extra
likely.
point.
Because I was just about to say, I think hell is going to be colder than Nashville is on Tuesday before we see our kicker
Max.
make 2 field goals.
Yeah,
Max
true.
Gilbert make 2 field
True.
goals in the
Especially in
cold.
the cold. Yeah.
And so yeah. So give me 42 to 35 Tennessee,
So
42 to 35 versus Illinois in the Music City
you're giving
Bowl.
Max more
I
credit
think
since he's going to hit all his extra points in your scenario. In my scenario,
I,
he's going to miss
I'm
one.
I think he at least hits his extra points.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think he's at least going to
We'll
get that
see.
done.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll let us know in the chat, folks. What do you think? You think Max Gilbert hits all his extra points or not? Do you think he makes a field goal? Let us know. And again, let us know your score predictions in chat, and then also in the comments if you're watching after the fact. Let us know in the comments what you think will be the official score. But Austin, we're going to watch the game. We might drop a clip or two this week, but we will watch the game and then we will review the game afterwards. Probably Austin in our normal live show next Sunday. You think is probably when we'll do that?
Maybe. I was also thinking potentially Wednesday and then make it a video or something, but we'll discuss it and bring it to the people. Look out for either potentially Wednesday or Sunday if we're lazy.
Right, exactly. So, but if you're just joining us, folks, if you maybe are new to the Vol Talk podcast, right now we are doing live shows on Sundays around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We've been a little late the past few Sundays. We got a little bit better this Sunday. Again, most of it has been due to connection issues that should be resolved now, and so we're hoping that we'll be on time from here on out. Again, knock on wood. So definitely turn on the notification bell to be notified whenever we go live. And then, of course, also look for those clips to drop throughout the week if you prefer that shorter form of content as opposed to the long form. But Austin, it's been a fun show. We appreciate Ben in the chat saying a great show. Thank you, Ben. We really appreciate you. And Ben says Max will be okay. Nothing over 40. Yeah, that's probably a good bet there, Ben. But we appreciate you, Ben. We appreciate Matt in the chat. We appreciate Lynn. We appreciate Wesley. Lamone earlier was in the chat. We really appreciate you, buddy. Killer Dude in the chat earlier. Everyone who has chatted today, dropped your questions. We really appreciate you guys. Again, if you haven't already, smash the like button. Also, for score predictions, either in chat or in the comments, we will give a shout out to whoever is closest in their score prediction once we review the game after the game occurs. So be on the lookout for that as well. But like everyone said, it's been a fun show. We really appreciate you guys joining, and we can't wait to continue to cover the off season for football as well as basketball season with you guys, because we cover all things volunteer sports. So definitely be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We will see you guys on the other side of the Music City Bowl. Until then, as always, baby, go freaking Vols.
GBO.